Okay, hi guys. So I'm here to do a very quick recording on pressure, and this is a really important chapter and some people find it a bit harder than usual. Okay, as usual, this downloading of content into your head should only take about 20% of your time. Okay, you should be spending 80% of the time practicing the questions that you find on the website as well. Okay, so yeah, the very first section of this recording, I will just introduce the basic concept of pressure. Okay, and then in the next few videos, the lessons will get progressively harder. Okay, so first and foremost, the syllabus wants you to be able to define pressure. Okay, so look, pressure is actually just defined as the force acting perpendicular per unit of area. Okay, so the definition is this way, force acting perpendicular on a unit area of surface. In my head, I just store the information as force per unit of area, but the force must be right angle to the area. Okay, so that's the thought process behind this. Okay, so pressure is just force over area. So obviously pressure is affected by how big the force is as well as how big the area is. Okay, so in this very simple example, I give you two blocks, right, A and B, and I apply the same force on both of them. Then which one's going to have a higher pressure? The answer is A. Okay, because the area, right, that the force is applied on is smaller, so the pressure will be bigger. Okay, and you actually see pressure, right, being applied on many things in real life. So for example, you know that when you're cutting stuff with a knife, you can easily slice through whatever you're cutting. And the reason is because the knife, right, the surface area of the blade is really, really thin. So the pressure there is actually a lot higher. Okay, and similarly, if you play sports in school, you might also know about wearing boots with studs, right? Yeah, so the idea behind that is by having the studs, right, penetrate through the boots or like at the bottom of the boots, you actually decrease the surface area, right? And so what happens is you can poke through onto the ground and give you more traction. So that's the application of pressure in boots also. Okay, on the complete opposite side, if you don't want to be able to pierce through the ground, you want to glide, right? Then you have something like skis. So if you go skiing or snowboarding before, you know that actually the whole purpose of that, right, the ski or the snowboard, right, is to actually increase the surface area so that your pressure is reduced. So that way you don't cut into the ground. Yeah, so that's it. Okay, so yeah, that's the basic concept behind pressure. Let me also cover density in this video, and then in the next video I'll record something else. Okay, so for density, it's actually a very, very simple concept. Okay, you might have already learned this in Sec 1 or Sec 2, but density is just simply defined as the mass per unit of volume. Okay, so density is mass over volume. Okay, and it indicates, right, how much matter, right, is actually packed into like a unit of volume. Yeah, so the bigger the density, right, that will mean that the object, right, will tend to try to sink. Okay, yeah. So then from here, I've got a very simple illustration for you. So suppose we have three different objects or three different things. We have object A, we have the liquid which is B, and then we have C. Okay, so look, if density of A is less than B, then A, right, will actually float on B. Okay, and then similarly, right, if C is actually less than B, right, here, then C will sink. Okay, so eventually this particular object will sink all the way to the bottom here. Okay, yeah, so another thing you must remember is that every substance, right, has actually a fixed density value. Okay, so it's impossible, right, actually let me rephrase it. It is possible to identify what substance the thing is, the material is, by just looking at its density. Yeah. Okay, so every single substance has its own density, if it's a pure substance, of course. Okay, next, the object, right, will float if it has less density than the fluid that is placed in. Yeah, so this is something that we've just talked about here. Okay, if not, yeah, we are done with the very first part of pressure. Okay, so in the next part, right, I'll be covering something much harder, which is about your pressure in liquids.